In this video, I'll bring you behind the scenes as we head to two of my favorite layover cities. We'll take a ferry to an island in the Stockholm archipelago, and we're heading into the mountains north of Malaga, where we'll have dinner in a city built under a rock. I'll also explain how I traded from the trips I originally had into these two somewhat senior trips. Oh, and we're gonna go flying up the Hudson River in New York City. The only question is, will I make it to and from work in the jump seat or in a cabin seat? This is gonna be fun. You ready? Let's go.
My name's Paul. I fly airplanes for a living, but my passion is encouraging you to explore this beautiful world by giving you a glimpse into my layover life.
Good morning. This week I was able to trade the trips that I had, which was London and Edinburgh, for something a little bit better. And when I say better, I don't mean that necessarily that London and Edinburgh are bad, but the trips I was able to trade into pay a little bit more, and they're cities that are more on the senior side of things, so I don't get to go there super often. Today I'm going to Stockholm, Sweden, which I'm very excited about. It's one of my favorite places. And then in 4 days, I'll be going to Malaga, Spain. The flight to Newark today has almost 90 open seats with only 5 standbys, so it should be an easy commute to work.
With a wide open flight, I received my seat assignment before they started boarding, and a few minutes later, I was on my way.
Newark Liberty International Airport and the New York City surrounding area.
I put on my favorite podcast, but it wasn't long before I fell asleep. These trips are a series of naps, and this was the first of many. Per usual, my first stop in Newark was the United Club. I like the club by C123 because they have a barista who will make me an iced oat milk latte. I sat down and pre-ordered a salad from the farmer's fridge in our pilot lounge. Then I got to work on a PowerPoint for a speaking event I'm doing with someone from our marketing team later this month. The Stockholm flight leaves pretty early, so I only had a couple of hours before it was time to head downstairs. I stopped by the pilot lounge to pick up my salad. I also grabbed some more trading cards to carry in my bag. I picked up a coffee.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
And then met the other pilots in the flight planning area to look over the flight and talk to our dispatcher. From there, it was down to the airplane to brief the flight attendants. This is when we go over any turbulence expected, anything that might be wrong with the airplane, like seatback monitors or ovens that don't work, but it's also a chance to get to know who you'll be working with over the next couple days. And finally, we were off.
Ladies and gentlemen, a very good evening from the flight deck. Your captain speaking. Like to welcome you aboard United Flight 68, service now to Stockholm, Sweden.
United 68 is an altitude 4,000 feet.
4,000, United 68.
United 68, wind calm, runway 01 right, clear to land.
1 right, clear to land, United 68.
It is so nice to be back in Stockholm. I absolutely love this layover, but because it's a relatively senior trip and it's seasonal, meaning we only fly it in the summertime, I don't get to come here very often. I used to come here a lot as a first officer, but as a captain, I've only been here a couple times. But it's good to be back. I'd like to tell you how we're able to trade trips from trips that don't pay as much to trips that pay a little bit more or are a better destination in general. But let's do that later in the video because I'll have more time, and in just a couple hours, the first officer and I are gonna take a ferry through the archipelago to an island called Vaxholm.
There are a lot of options when it comes to taking ferries to different islands in the archipelago, but the IRO on our flight is from Stockholm and said for the amount of time we had, he'd recommend the 1-hour ferry to Vaxholm. The day we were there was a bit chilly and rainy, but sitting on the ferry got me thinking.
I just think it's interesting how different, like we all leave from Newark and like someone's in Mallorca right now, jumping off cliffs into the ocean, and we're in Stockholm and someone's in Greenland, you know what I mean? Like everyone leaves and has a different layover and then comes back and it's totally different, it has a totally different experience. And then we just go home, you know, it's crazy.
Vaxholm feels like a storybook come to life. Colorful wooden houses line the harbor, and it's a nice respite from the hustle of Stockholm. It's also a great place to explore, and what's a better way to explore than with a bicycle? My first officer, Caroline, and I headed across this bridge and into the nature preserve that I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce. And I have to say, I think one of the reasons I love coming to Sweden is that
It looks just like Minnesota.
although Minnesota doesn't have castles like this. This castle has been here since the 1600s, and now it's open to the public for tours. We didn't go inside, but stood outside trying to figure out what it reminded us of. My thought was King Friday's castle from Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. Let me know in the comments what you think. We made our way through the national park, past these really cool houses, over another little bridge, and ended up here at the southern end of the island with sweeping views of the fjord. This is also a ferry stop, but it's not like most ferry stops.
If you want to take the ferry from here back to Vaxholm, you just move the flag, and then the boat will stop, and then it just goes back. You don't need the ferry, so you just gotta hold it here till the ferry comes back. That's awesome. We're gonna bike back though.
From there, it was back to Vaxholm to board the 1-hour ferry to Stockholm. When we got off the boat, we headed to one of my favorite restaurants, Meatballs for the People. Dining in Europe is never just about food, it's about the table. Strangers seated side by side and realizing you've been invited into something bigger than yourself. Community seating has a way of breaking down walls. Suddenly, the couple from across the world is sharing stories. The laughter from one end of the table drifts to the other, and a simple meal turns into a shared memory. And at the end of the day, it's about the connection and the joy of belonging, even if it's just for an evening.
United Airlines, your call will be recorded. 69, this is Mary.
Hey, it's Paul Holte on Flight 69 from Stockholm to Newark.
Good morning, Captain. How you doing today?
Good, yourself?
Oh, pretty good. Y'all ready for your brief?
Yeah, go ahead.
There's not a whole lot out there. It should
Perfect.
actually be a fairly nice day today. Really, the only spot of turbulence I've got is kind of crossing that border of Canada down on descent into Newark, just from the jet stream pushing the hurricane further out. So that's all that's really going on. There's no solar forecasted. The volcanoes up in Iceland are all behaving. So,
Cool. All right, well, I appreciate it. Thank you.
absolutely, y'all have a good flight. We'll talk it out.
All right, sounds good. See ya.
With the briefing from the dispatcher complete and coffee in hand, it was down to the airplane to pre-flight the cockpit and prepare to fly the 3,415 nautical miles back to Newark, which makes this the longest 757 flight in the world. If you're curious what sort of notes I have on this little piece of paper on the Yoke clip, I keep it pretty simple. Our flight number, the time en route. This is SOB, which stands for Souls on Board. So once we have the final count, I'll write that number down just in case we have an emergency and need to pass it along to air traffic control. I have the departure station and gate, the arrival station, just in case I forget where we're going. Just kidding. And where it says PG, that's the planned gate fuel, which on this flight was 76,900 pounds. Where it says TO, that's the minimum fuel we need to take off. In this case, 71,600 pounds. Everyone does it differently, but this is what I like to do.
Ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning from the flight deck. Your captain speaking. I'd like to welcome you aboard United Flight 69 service to Newark, New Jersey. We'll be pushing back here very shortly. Once we're en route today, 8 hours and 16 minutes from takeoff until touchdown. On our crossing, should get some nice views of Iceland and southern Greenland before we make our way towards the Canadian Maritimes. On the arrival in Newark today, clear skies, temperature of 26 degrees Celsius, which is 79 degrees Fahrenheit. If you'd like to listen along on our conversations with air traffic control, you can do that through your seatback monitor. Just go to Spotify and select Flight Deck. If there's anything we can do to make your flight more enjoyable today, please don't hesitate to ask. From all of us at United, welcome on board. Enjoy your flight. Good morning.
This afternoon, I get to do something that I've wanted to do for a really long time. My friend Pete called me up and we're gonna go up in a small airplane and tour the Hudson River. It's called the Hudson River Corridor, I think. We're going to take off from the Linden Airport, which is just south of the Newark Airport. If you're landing in Newark and you're sitting on the left-hand side of the airplane, you're landing north. You'll probably see it maybe like 3 minutes before you land. So I'm going to head down there later this afternoon. We're going to take off, tour New York City, which is something that Pete has done many times. He used to operate tours, so I'm very confident that he has the ability to navigate us around the New York airspace, which is something I probably don't have the ability to do because it's way outside my comfort zone. Even though I fly big airplanes in New York, flying a small airplane in New York is completely different. But before we do that, I want to explain how pilots are able to trade for better trips. So for example, the trip I just finished, the Stockholm trip, I was supposed to go to London and I was able to trade for Stockholm. Tomorrow I was supposed to go to Edinburgh and I was able to trade for Malaga. So let's say someone has a Mallorca trip. That person calls in sick, that Mallorca trip goes into open time. So there's a whole group of pilots who want to go to Mallorca, but it's only the most senior person who gets to do that. So let's say the most senior person was going to Rome. Well, now they can trade from Rome into Mallorca. And now the Rome trip is an open time. And let's say someone who was going to, say, Palermo, they wanted to go to Rome. So they're able to trade into the Rome trip because they're the most senior and now they're going to Rome. So now Palermo is in open time. And let's say someone who was going to Faro wanted to go to Palermo. Well, then the person who is going to Faro is now on the Palermo trip, the most senior person, and now the Faro trip is in open time. And now let's say the person who traded into Faro was going to Stockholm. So now Stockholm is in open time because they're going to Faro. And then let's say the person who was going to London, me, gets to trade into Stockholm. It's all seniority based, so whoever's the most senior who wants those trips, they put it in the computer. Say one person calls in sick for one trip and it can cycle through, I mean, it could be 20 trips. The computer does it automatically up until 11 a.m. the day before the trip starts. So if a trip goes into open time the day before the trip starts, is fair game. You call crew scheduling and they give you the trip, hopefully. So I was able to get these trips through the computer. It just showed up on my schedule. So I put in a bunch of requests and I got a text saying, you picked up Stockholm. And then a couple days later, you picked up Malaga, which is where I'm going tomorrow, which would be super fun. But before we do that, tonight we're going flying with my friend, Pilot Pete.
Municipal Airport. Automated weather observation 2032 Zulu weather wind 330 at 5.
Pete, thanks for having me on.
Pleasure, Paul. Glad you're here.
This is awesome. Pete and I have known each other for about 9 months. We originally met at a conference that we both spoke at out in San Diego, and we've become good friends. We have 3 things in common. A, we both have significant others that support us through our social media and our careers, which is amazing. B, we both fly the 767. And C, we've both been on national TV. What was the name of the show that you were on?
I was on one called The Bachelorette and Bachelor in Paradise.
Yeah. And I was on a United commercial for 1 second.
Much cooler.
So Hollywood has our numbers. What are we doing today?
Today we're going to go up in the all very well significant Piper Warrior 2. It's a little bit different than flying the 767 that we're normally used to doing. But the one thing we get to do in the small GA general aviation aircraft that we don't get to do in the 76 is fly this close to downtown New York City. It is the best flight in the world. You've seen it from 5,000 feet. I know you've seen it from the ILS coming into Newark from about 3,000 feet away. This, we're going to be like wingtip to all your favorite buildings: World Trade Center, Central Park, Empire State Building, Intrepid. It's the best flight in the world.
I'm seriously pumped. So, all right, we're ready to go?
Let's go fly.
Let's do it.
London traffic, Piper Warrior departing 27, southbound departure London.
So this is my new friend Hall in the back seat. He's from Australia, lives in New York, and he's way cooler than both Pete and I.
Facts. All right, first stop on our tour, ladies and gentlemen, will be the Verrazano Bridge. This bridge was built in 1847 to connect Staten Island with Brooklyn, New York. It's also the start of the New York City Marathon. New York City traffic, Piper Warrior is VZ 1,000 feet northbound.
Helicopter up there.
Insight, thanks.
3. Downtown, full hotel with the clock. Inbound.
So the way they have this like highway in the sky, when you're going northbound, you're on the east shoreline, which we're doing, and then southbound will be on the west shoreline.
Okay.
There'll be like tons of helicopters and stuff doing tours, so it is a pretty busy airspace.
The altitude allowance for flying up and down the Hudson River is very small. You have to remain between 1,000 feet and 1,300 feet. Below that, and you risk mixing in with the helicopters landing in Manhattan. Above that, and you start getting close to the airline arrivals into LaGuardia.
Coming up is the best shot, man. World Trade Center, it is epic. Downtown Manhattan, my favorite view. Off your right, you got the Empire State Building.
You know, in New York City, the building lots can actually sell the airspace above them. So that's why you'll sometimes see like a massive building and then like the buildings around it are much shorter because they buy the airspace from the surrounding buildings.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, and then the other buildings are actually, they can't build above that certain height that they sell.
And then you got the, what is it? It's called the...
Oh, the Edge.
The Edge, yeah. And then the GWB's coming up right here, George Washington Bridge. New York traffic, Piper Warrior, 1,100 GWB northbound.
It's like it goes by so fast. It's like you almost don't have time to capture everything.
Yeah.
We will be turning around. You'll get it again off your, it'll be off my left shoulder though.
Oh, okay.
Get your camera ready for the Statue of Liberty.
I've been on a lot of really cool flights, but I have to say,
This was one of the most fun general aviation flights I've ever done. Even though I fly in and out of the New York area all the time, being that close to the World Trade Center was amazing. Thank you so much for taking me up.
Dude, pleasure.
Where can people find you on socials?
PilotPete.fly, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. And yeah, just like you, love sharing my life and the behind the scenes of an airline pilot and giving back to the next generation. So it's been fun. But that was an awesome flight. I've done it probably now 100 times, but doing it with good friends and family, it's top notch.
Go check out his video. He also made a YouTube video on this trip. Go check that out. We'll see you for tomorrow's flight to Malaga, Spain. I have a little bit of a secret. Not every layover is packed with activities. As a matter of fact, when I stay here in Newark, typically I don't do anything. Going flying with Pete last night was kind of an exception to that rule, but it's not very often that I'm going into the city or going out on some grand adventure when I'm in Newark. These 30 hours that I'm in Newark are spent just chilling. As an example, this morning I woke up at 10 o'clock, had some granola, and I laid around in bed watching YouTube. And that was the extent of my day. And now, like most airline pilots, we're creatures of routine. I'm gonna take a walk to the airport. I'm gonna get a farmer's fridge salad. I'm gonna get a coffee, and then I'm gonna meet the crew in the flight planning area and finally walk down to the airplane and say,
Ladies and gentlemen, a very good evening from the flight deck. I'd like to welcome you aboard United Flight 350, service now to Malaga, Spain.
We are just 2 hours late getting into Malaga for kind of an interesting reason. The airplane we were originally dispatched with had an inoperative lavatory. And while it was completely legal to fly the airplane from Newark to Malaga and have the crew fly it back to Newark, the flight back is about 8.5 hours. And when you're down one lavatory and the airplane is completely full of people, the other lavatories tend to fill up. So we decided to get a new airplane, so we had to wait a couple hours for that. And there was no overflowing lavatories, which would have been a problem. So I'm going to take a nap for a couple hours, and then this afternoon we're leaving the beaches of Malaga and heading into the mountains.
as you climb higher and higher into the rugged Andalusian Mountains, each bend reveals a new canvas. Rolling hills quilted with olive groves mix with cool air as you make your way into Spain's untamed interior.
We have arrived today. I'm with my friend and first officer, Kevin. I've not done a lot of research on this. I just know that there's a bridge and it looks cool. And we're gonna go try to hike down to the bottom of it. But this town is super, super pretty.
One of Spain's oldest cities, Ronda is perched on the edge of a sheer cliff. Cobblestone streets lead to an ancient bridge, the Puente Nuevo, which towers nearly 400 feet above the canyon floor. Before we hiked down into the canyon, we made a quick stop for lunch. This is one of those things I love about travel. No reservations, no idea what's to come, just randomly eating a sandwich on a 400-year-old bridge, which happens to be the newest bridge in town. If you walk across the bridge and down this trail, you can get all the way to the bottom of the canyon. But along the way, there are plenty of great viewpoints where you can take in the city that seems to be suspended between earth and sky. From there, we made our way further north to a village unlike any other. A city that doesn't just cling to the landscape, it disappears into it.
We have arrived at the village built under a rock. This is really, really cool.
We found a restaurant tucked under the shadow of the ancient rock and settled in for a beautiful meal in one of the most unique cities in the world. And with that, the sun set on the Andalusian Mountains and the last night of this trip.
Thanks, and good morning from the flight deck. We're now level 35,000 feet, expecting it to be a very smooth flight today. We're going to turn off the seatbelt sign. Feel free to move about the cabin if you'd like, but if you do stay in your seat, please keep your seatbelt fastened just in case we get into any unexpected turbulence along the way. 8 hours and 5 minutes today from takeoff until touchdown should put us on the ground in Newark about 10 minutes ahead of schedule. We'll give you an update on the latest weather and arrival information once we get closer. Until then, we've got things covered up here. I invite you to sit back, relax, and welcome to the friendly skies.
When I first started this YouTube channel, it was purely to encourage other crew members to get out and explore on their layovers. It's obviously turned into so much more than that, but it wasn't until recently that I realized why I try to make the most of every layover and opportunity. And I think it goes back to my very first month as an airline pilot. I was 22 years old, and it was September 2001. After years of working hard to achieve my childhood dream of flying airplanes for a living, it felt like it all crumbled on that horrible Tuesday, September the 11th. And ever since then, I've lived like tomorrow wasn't promised. But after every storm, the seas calm, and a rainbow appears, and with it, hope and the promise of a better future. So, if you're facing a storm right now, just know that the skies will clear and that the best is truly yet to come. After I landed and said goodbye to our guests, the only storm I was facing was getting on my flight home. As I made my way to the gate, I checked the seat availability and the flight was completely full. And so I anxiously sat and waited for the gate agent to clear me for either a cabin seat or a cockpit jump seat. And with just minutes before boarding coming to an end, I was given a seat in the cabin, and I was on my way home. This job is full of rewards, meeting incredible people, seeing beautiful places that you might not otherwise go to, and the ability to travel the world on a whim. But sometimes the most rewarding thing is getting in your car at the end of a trip, driving the streets you know like the back of your hand, and hearing,
"Dad's home!"
How are you?
Good.
Yeah?
Come inside. I want to show you my codes.
Okay.
I follow you.
Oh, you do?
I follow
awesome.
you. Can I take a picture with
And take kind of a sunset ferry back. So that's the tentative plan for the day. If something changes. Remember when you said you didn't want to be riding the bikes wet?
Well, that's what we're doing.
Well, I just want to go back that way, turn around, and then come back.
Sure.
Yeah, oh yeah. Another Ponch and John moment.
Okie dokie.
Pete, thanks for having me out.
Paul, pleasure, buddy.
Yeah, man, good to see you. Pete and I have known each other for about 9 months. We met, seriously. Pete, thanks for having me out.
Pleasure, Paul. Glad
man,
you're here.
This is awesome. We got here just 2 hours late, which gives me just enough time to take a quick nap and go on a little adventure this afternoon.
I took a leak bit about him. Just go up here right on the corner.
Oh, okay, perfect.
I obviously wasn't the first one.
Okay. That'll go in the bloopers.
No joke, Sonia was like, oh, Paul's going? I'm good with that. I'm like, what do you think I do for a living? She's like, oh, I know, like, Paul just seems so safe. I'm like, what do you think I do?